I haven't really bought a budget gaming mouse in a long time. And I'll be honest, I never bought a budget wireless gaming mouse either. But now it's 2025, we're getting budget wireless gaming mice. And the people over at EWEADN, kind of hard to actually pronounce this, but I'm gonna call it EWEADN. EWEADN shipped me out their new S9 Ultra mouse. The only reason I know it's the S9 Ultra is because they said on the mouse itself. It doesn't actually show in the packaging, but it's the S9 Ultra. They sent me this mouse to see how great a wireless budget gaming mouse can be. And honestly, I'm pretty impressed with what they've done. Full disclaimer though, this isn't a sponsored video. Yes, it did send me this review unit. All they asked me to do is make an honest review on this mouse, and that's exactly what I'm gonna do. These are my own thoughts. I'm not paid for this video. The only thing they did was give me this mouse. And yeah, let's talk about it. The first thing you should know is that this mouse is 79 Singapore dollars. In translation, it is 61 US dollars, which is a really insane price for a mouse like this. Because if you told me this was about 60 bucks, I kind of wouldn't believe you. I would have at least said 100 minimum. But the fact that it's a lot cheaper than that is pretty crazy, especially since this is a mouse that's very comparable to the Viper V3. And you're gonna hear that a lot in this video because that's what the main competition of this mouse really is. It's a very budget alternative to the Viper V3. And to be 100% honest, you don't really need to buy a Viper V3 if you get this mouse. So yeah, let's get right into the review. Let's talk about the design. As always, I like to talk about design first. Obviously, it is a very shape inspired by the V3. And I have used the V3 recently. As you know, I did the Viper V3 review of the Faker Edition mouse. Yes, I still remember how that feels like, and this feels very dead similar. Except for the buttons feel a little bit different in terms of the clicking. But in terms of actual shape and feel of the mouse, it is very, very similar. I won't lie. I don't know how that mouse shape is. That mouse shape is kind of catered towards palm grip overall. It's a very big mouse. The size of this mouse is 127 millimeters by 64.8 by 40.5 millimeters. And I have 19 centimeters by 10 centimeter hands. And this basically fills up my whole hand completely. And honestly, I still think it's a little bit too big because of the hump, but that hump is very reminiscent of, again, the Viper V3. That is literally the same experience I have with this mouse with the Viper V3. It's, again, for me, too big of a mouse, but for people who have bigger hands than me, and I have very small hands, this mouse might be just for you, especially if you love palm and you're a big fan of the Viper V3 shape. This is the Viper V3 shape, almost like perfectly cut. It's like almost the exact same. The only real reason I know this is a different mouse is because of the texture of the mouse itself, not really because of the way it feels. They say a lot on this mouse, there's an ice skin feeling, it's a very glossy finish. They're going with a very smooth feeling mouse finish, which I don't really like that much, personally speaking, because I think overall you kind of want this rubberized texture. You want to keep your mouse, especially if your hands get a little bit sweaty. Yeah, the smoothness is already kind of not great. So then if it's wet, it's even worse. That's why I added these mouse grips in order to try using this mouse properly. After using without it for a bit, I used it with it, and I prefer it a lot more with the grip on because of, again, the slipperiness. Again, this is something they could change in the future. It's not a complete deal breaker, but luckily they do include these mouse grips in the box. So that is something to note. However, other than that, I think the silver design is really, really cool. It's a very unique design. I mean, silver accents, we haven't really seen in a while in a mouse, especially the gray. It kind of reminds me of the Superior Iron Man armor, if you know what that is. I'll just put a picture of that there. Superior Iron Man, that's what this mouse is kind of going for. And I really like the design, really cool. And the mouse buttons and the shape, again, very reminiscent of Viper V3. The button clicks, they are very, very also reminiscent, but not exactly the same. I would say that these are a little bit lighter than the Viper V3's mouse clicks, especially the side buttons. I don't like these side buttons as much as I like the Viper V3's. The Viper V3's felt a little more tactile. These feel a little bit more light. However, that's not a deal breaker by any means necessary. I think that these are still a really good alternative. I think these are really, really good still. They're just not as good as the Viper V3. But then again, this is also significantly cheaper than the Viper V3. So that is somewhat of the trade-off you're gonna have to deal with. The scroll wheel is a little bit on the very looser side. I would say, yes, you can feel the indentations when you are scrolling with this mouse. However, I think the steps are a little bit too close to one another. So you might over scroll. At least middle mouse button clicking is actually pretty satisfying. I would say the scroll wheel just needs a little bit more indentation or a little bit more separation between each scroll click because it's a little bit too easy to scroll on. But yeah, other than that, I think the scroll was fine. This is also a 56-gram mouse, and it definitely does feel really, really light. Considering the fact that this is my main mouse and this mouse, they feel almost similar weight, but obviously there's a big difference. This is still lighter by a lot, but because of how big this mouse is, the weight distribution on this is very, very nice. It doesn't really feel very, very light. Off the top of my head, I can't really remember how heavy the Viper V3 felt. I would definitely say this does feel very light though. One of the best things about this mouse, surprisingly to me, was actually the mouse feet. Again, although this literally does look exactly like the Viper V3, I mean, I remember the Viper V3 exactly having these mouse feet. I mean, it's a pretty good job. And they even give extra mouse feet in the box. For, again, a budget mouse, they have extra mouse feet. It's kind of crazy considering Razer doesn't even do that. It's a nice touch. There's even still a DPI button on the mouse. There's also an off. There's also a triple. The interesting thing about this mouse is that it doesn't just have 2.4 gigahertz. It also has Bluetooth. I, again, would never touch the Bluetooth option on a gaming mouse just because who the fuck games in Bluetooth, especially when they give you a wireless receiver. There is no real reason to touch Bluetooth, but I guess if you really want to use it for like your work laptop, then I guess there's an option if you really want to. But personally speaking, if you're buying a gaming mouse, it's not really recommended to use the Bluetooth option, but it is there if you ever want to use it. Moving on, let's talk about performance. Now, I have used this for a couple hours. In my experience, I think that this mouse performs fine. I mean, number one, it has an optical sensor, which I think is like the bare minimum nowadays. I've gone to gaming cafes recently that had a laser mouse, and that pissed me the fuck off. It uses an optical PAW 3395 sensor. Again, I mean, this is a really, really good sensor. I mean, I have no problems with it. I can't spin it out. And for everything I was playing on, I had not noticed a single trip up. The only reason I think I tripped up on this is because how big the mouse is. Again, I'm a very small hand person, but I think the sensor is fine. It performed great. And even though it is a budget mouse, they gave you two receivers, just like the Beast Meow. They gave you the 1K hertz one, which is this one. And they also gave you 8K hertz, which is the one that's plugged in my system right now. I think it doesn't immediately make it 8K hertz. You still got to go to the settings in the EWEADN, the web driver system, and then change to 8K hertz. But then again, most games like I play, like right now, Marvel Rivals does not support 8K hertz polling rate, at least not well. I just kept that 1K hertz. I know I could talk about 8K hertz polling rate, but again, most people don't really need it. That is an option though if you really want to use it. Genuinely, I made a ton of these videos. I have not seen one person complain about me not talking about 8K hertz polling rate. The question is, I guess, does it feel like it's cheaper? Not really. I guess maybe the side buttons are the only giveaway for me. Like if you blinded me and told me that this is the Viper V3 and this is not, the side buttons are the only ones I'm like, damn, that doesn't feel exactly right, other than, oh yeah, and the texture of the ice cool, that also is a dead giveaway. But other than that, to be honest, it feels very similar to the Viper V3. Now, let's talk about the software a little bit because I did try using it and it does work. It's just, and it is web-based. The problem is right now, I don't know how to switch it to English, and it was a little bit weird trying to switch it to English because it does say in the portal right before that it's in English, and then when I press the button, it went to Chinese. I can't switch it. I could be wrong, but at least when I tried to, I've been looking for the option for at least a couple like minutes, and I just couldn't find the English option, like the language button. I couldn't find it. So for the future, I hope they fix that. It was a little bit annoying. It was still pretty obvious to tell if I want to switch DPI, I could switch DPI, lift off distance. I couldn't really read all the menus though, because again, I don't really speak Chinese. So yeah, just keep in mind, there is, I think, a downloadable version that may support the English version, but I don't really want to download. Surprisingly, the fact they even developed a web app version driver is very nice and really cool. And surprisingly, again, it's a budget mouse. I didn't even expect them to even make one for that. Another thing is this mouse is rated for 120 hours of use. And so far, I've been using this mouse for about 8 hours. The thing is, there's no battery specification on the thing. And it still says it's kind of full. So I'm gonna have to assume that it is still at 90%. And even though I've used it for about 8 to 10 hours at this point, and I've still had zero problems with the battery, it's impressive. Basing it off the fact that it's been 8 to 10 hours and the battery is still about above 90%, Yeah, you basically are looking at about maybe to 90 to 100 hours of use of this. Again, maybe being at your desk, maybe not 100 hours completely continuous, but about 100 hours. So I'm guessing you only have to charge this maybe once or twice a week at most. But I'm gonna guess if unless you're playing at your desk the whole day, one time a week of charging this. And again, to give you, I think this carryable is just good enough. I wouldn't really complain. Again, it's a $79 mouse. Surprisingly, they even give you 2 receivers in it. It's kind of insane. It's USB-C as well, so USB-C, you know, you can charge it and play at the same time. There's 3 ways to play with it. You can use 2.4 gigahertz, wired, and Bluetooth, all on one mouse. That's actually more features than my Beast Meow, which is my main mouse, which is actually kind of surprising considering it's almost half the price of my Beast Meow. Overall, I know this is a very quick, not full long-term review of this mouse. I don't really have the chance to do that right now. I'm about to head back to America and I'm really sick. If you can't tell, my voice sounds very different right now. I have influenza, but these guys sent me out this mouse last week. I just got back from vacation. I had to make it up to them to make this video as soon as I could. But what do I think of this mouse overall? I'm actually very impressed with their product. Especially for the price. It's kind of disgusting how cheap this is compared to a Razer Viper Razer Viper V3. The Razer Viper V3, again, I bought that figure edition for about $250 US. I think I'll list the price right now in America for how much it costs. I think this is overall a really insane mouse. I think for the price, again, super worth the value. Again, the main reason for me I don't use this mouse is because it's too big for me. And then also this slippery thing is a little bit annoying. Kind of prefer the more rubberized texture on the mouse for grip, and it's too big. Again, mostly the reason is just too big, but very impressed with the product. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and yeah, I'll make a video soon as I can. Right now I'm still trying to recover. I'm literally dying, but yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video and like and follow for more. Peace.